So, 7 years ago, you started a new ministry. Tell me about starting your ministry.
Okay. Compassionate Ministries. I had gone through some changes. I went through some real challenging times after I left my first church, first pastorate. And I think I even had a little breakdown. And I was just so hurt and so unhappy because of the things that happened. So I knew God still, I had not completed my pastorship. I knew there was more I had to do. And I know I was called to be a pastor because I have the love for God's people. So God had given me a vision. I got married, and then later I married Pastor Phyllis Brandon. She was Pastor Phyllis Day Roberts at that time, and she had been in the ministry for many years also. And I would talk to her and tell her, I know God is calling me to pastor, want to establish my own ministry. And she say, if God told you to do it, you do it. I'm with you. You got my support. I'll never step out in front of you. And I can say for 7 years, she never stepped out in front. She liked to work in the background. Great wife, great first lady, great co-pastor, but she's always there to support me. If I walk in church or I get up on Sunday morning and say, I'm really just not feeling it, sometimes she'll ask me before I say something, I'll preach today. She's always ready. Or she'll teach Bible study on Tuesday nights. So with that, I've been blessed. But Compassionate Ministry came out of some of the things I went through and I saw happening to people when I was going through my downtime. And seemed like in the African American or Black church, people didn't know how to respond to you if you were going through some problems or some issues. And I wanted to have a ministry where I could be there to respond and support people. And God has blessed me. That's how Compassionate Ministry came about. And sometimes people think when you start a ministry called Compassionate, that everything, they can use you or they can walk on you. They can't. You have to know how to be humble. You have to know how to do your ministry, but also you got to know there's a time you can say yes, there's a time you can say no. Every time somebody come and say, I want something, and then sometimes people say, but your ministry is Compassionate Ministry. Yes, it is. But God wants me to be compassionate, but he wants me to do the right thing. Sometimes people want money. And I said, but God has entrusted me to be a good steward. So I have to be a good steward. And believe me, Compassionate Ministry helps a lot of people. We have reached out as a small church, and there's just amazing with the number of people we have helped. One thing I believe and I teach the church is if we can, every month, we try to give about 10% away as to what we take up in our tithes and offering. I said, I believe that, and God has blessed the church tremendously. We're always helping on this side, this corner, that corner. We just help people because I believe the church don't need to just hold on to everything, but bless people, reach out. Sometimes you can't just give money. Sometimes you may have to pay a bill. Sometimes you may have to buy some grocery. Sometimes you may have to do other things. However, the need is. And everybody don't have the same need. Everybody in the church don't need you to give them $50 because they went to the hospital. There may be another need. But whatever, we try to always reach out. That's how compassionate, because when I went through a little time, I was in the street. Maybe 2 or 3 years. Even though I may have stopped preaching for a little bit, I didn't stay out the church. One thing I tell everybody, stay in the church. Even if you ain't doing what you're supposed to do, stay in the church. Stay in the prayer line. And I know God is a prayer answering and a prayer hearing God. I stayed in prayer line until my life fell back in place. I stayed in prayer line. Even if I went out to church after I went out to service and messed up, I stayed in the prayer line. I went to church, never missed. And I had some substance abuse problem. But I still stayed in the church. I was calling the saints, the old mothers, Pastor Mary Small here in Roxborough, Pastor Pathway to Life. She was one of those. She and some of the other women pastors. Because women pastors sometimes got a compassionate heart that men don't have or don't know how to nurture. And that's by nature. Women are nurturers. They know how to nurture. So I would call Pastor Small and say, because she became a big sister, sometime a mother. And I said, look, I'm going through this. You tell them other women, them saints, that I say, pray for me. One time they said, tell them we ain't praying no more. I said, tell them they got to. God commissioned them to do it. And she laughed and they laughed and tell me, but they kept praying. And God brought me through. If you stay in the church, God will bring you through.